So I think the difference in a poem or a work of literary art, or shall we say, story novel, is that it isn't for the moment utilitarian communication. It is some kind of housing of a moment, a snapshot of consciousness that can be looked upon by other persons, people. Yeah. I always like to make a play on two words which sound the same. There's H-E-A-R-D, heard, and there's H-E-R-D, heard. And I think that in writing poetry, especially in times of crisis, political crisis, you've got to be beware of H-E-R-D feelings as opposed to individual H-E-A-R-D. The writer is there to be H-E-A-R-D singularly, not to be part of the tribe. Although, at moments of crisis, this is a very fine and important distinction, actually. And it's one that in the United States, I noticed in the 60s and 70s when I was here. During the civil rights movement in Northern Ireland, we had a very strong sense of the Afro-American, the black civil rights movement here. And I had very strong sympathy with the black American poets here, whose first person singular, I, was under pressure always to become first person plural, we. And so that's always a question that arises, your relationship to your group, whether you should be standing off from them, or being their conscience, as James Joyce was saying, or being their voice. There are different requirements at different times. I really began writing poetry in earnest in my early 20s, and at that point, I suppose, what I was trying to do, and probably have been trying to do since, is to integrate a first life, which was far from books, far from literature, which was in a far off time, really, because anthropologically speaking, I suppose, even though chronologically I grew up in the 20th century, but it was a 20th century that had roots really in the medieval. I mean, I was in a countryside where we still, plowed with horses, lit the fire in the morning, carried water from wells and so on. So in a very quick time, all that changed in the common life in Northern Ireland and in my own personal life. So what the poetry is trying to do is to make sense of a life in that time. And in that time, of course, included not only my own autobiographical experience, but it included the political history of Northern Ireland, which was a kind of a riven and a large subject. So I had to deal with that too.